Hey guys, in today's part 2 of upcoming 2018 Kickstarter board games that I'm looking forward to and I want to share with you, I'm going to be covering 4 more games, one of them an Eric Lang game. Okay, alright, so I know I already did a video on this, but again, it's really hard to know, like, what Kickstarters are coming out, get more information, get enough to actually share with you guys, besides just splashing on a name saying, 2018, because half the time that's then gonna end up changing dates, or, not going to Kickstarter, or it is going to Kickstarter, or who knows. And in fact, one of these is still kind of like, well, when it's ready, it'll be there, but who knows. But it also really excites me. I'm going to be touching on that one last. Right off the bat, let's get into that Eric Lang game. So, Cthulhu Death May Die is the next big box CMON Kickstarter. None of this week-long, no stretch goals, any of that kind of stuff. This is their next big hotness. You're going to want to take a look at this July 10th at 3 p.m. Eastern, whatever, July 10th. Just refresh the Kickstarter page, right? I mean, it's going to go live then, and it's going to get big quick, I am sure, because it's CMON. It's an Eric Lang game, and what I mean by that is, from what I can tell by watching some interviews with him and stuff like that, and the fact that his name's like going to be on the box, like this is actually something he had a big part in, right? With his position in CMON, he kind of helps with pretty much all their games now at this point. But with this one, this is one he actually really was one of the main designers on. And so, and again, it's Cthulhu, which is like the new zombie hotness, right? This is like move aside, zombicide, hello, sea monsters from the deep, right? In the old ones and all that. And I must say the miniatures look crazy cool. That being said, like the heroes, the people you kind of play as look really boring. What I mean by that is they're very unassuming, right? You can do, I don't know, there's just a lot of robes and a lot of kind of your feet together, and maybe even your arms at your side. I mean, there's not a whole lot of poses and necessarily stuff going on there. So I think on the table it looked kind of interesting, but otherwise, and because you have that kind of like unassuming miniatures versus like these horrors, which is kind of cool. But then from actually just appreciating the miniature sculpt, some of them look a little plain to me. However, the monsters look crazy cool. I will say two things. One is about the gameplay itself that I find interesting. The other one, I'm going to follow up on these miniatures. Looking at the art, and it looks like it's Adrian Smith again. He seems to have really toned down his art for Coleman or Not's use. And what I mean, and maybe it's just because this came right after Zombicide Invader. But if you look at Zombicide Invader and you look at the colors used on these miniatures, they're so muted and almost all the same. Even like the not the Black Ops expansion, the one with the drillers in it, right? For Zombicide Invaders, they're pretty much all red and yellow. And then the main aliens are pretty much all gray. Now the heroes are crazy cool, and I really dig those. But the aliens, the color palette seemed kind of weird. Looking at some of these old ones, or I actually don't know that much about Cthulhu, like mythos, like what to call these things. But the sea enemies, like they're essentially completely gray. Right, so I'm going to put an image of it up here for you to see kind of what I'm looking at, what I'm talking about here. And so I might start painting these off of, like, however I decide to paint them as opposed to the concept art. I'm undecided on that because at the end of the day, these are game pieces. And therefore, as a game piece, they need to be able to easily be used as game pieces. And so if you're having a hard time matching, you draw the card and it says, I'm assuming like Zombicide, and it says to spawn these enemies. Then you gotta, okay, are those the purple guys or the yellow guys or the hot pink guys? Or, you know what I'm saying? If they don't match, it can sometimes be hard to, actually just use them in the game. So I don't know about that. It's just something I've noticed. It seems to be getting more plain. I'm comparing this to like perhaps Blood Rage, and even Hate I thought did pretty good. A lot of people said like the design was samey, but the color choices I think were still sufficiently changed between miniatures. Anyway, enough on that. The gameplay thing that I like is you already play as insane people. So often in these Cthulhu games, you're trying to not be insane, right? You have like this insanity tracker and you're like, oh no, I can't like lose my mind. Don't even worry about it. From my understanding of this, you're already insane and you're just trying. And in fact, it's like this weird winning mechanic where, you can die and do all that stuff as much as you want but you have to spawn like, she starts with an H. I don't know her name. She's like missing a face. She's cool. She'll be on the screen right now while I'm talking about her. But anyway, and then once she spawns, then nobody can die. Right? So like it's this weird, like the rules shift depending on where you are in the game, which I think is also kind of cool. So it kind of takes the Cthulhu thing and turns it on its head a little bit. And so, we'll see how that goes. But anyway, July 10th, check that out. That's going to be big. Next game, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles City Fall. Now, I did confirm this is a standalone expansion to the popular IDW game previously, which was kind of their first TMT IP game that I'm aware of, since they've done like a Munchkin and a few other things. But either way, that's coming in October, so we got plenty of time to look forward to that. I'm excited about it because I didn't get the previous one, but I heard the gameplay itself was actually pretty good. The miniatures seem hit or miss to me, but they're also, I think, following a certain more cartoony art style that fits that's fine. It's just some of them look a little toyish to me. However, I am definitely looking forward to this, and my understanding is City Fall is actually part of the comic book series. Like it's a story portion that's really good. So that would be really interesting as well. So I'm really looking forward to that, but that means you'll get all new miniatures, all new missions, all new everything, and you don't even need the old one to play it, which is great. That being said, if you're interested, the old Kickstarter edition game goes on sale at times on like miniaturemarket.com and places like that. So if you keep an eye out for it, you can get it in fact, I've seen it cheaper than when it was on Kickstarter, which is like crazy. So anyway, that looks really cool. We'll know more about what it is. I'll have more to show you when it comes closer to October and when it actually launches. Third game on the list is Eclipse 2nd Edition. This is coming out July 10th as well. Now, I don't know if they'll change this because that's the same day that Death May Die launches, and typically people try to kind of, make room for Cool Mini or Not, which I'm actually fine with, not because I think there shouldn't be competition. I think it's because as a backer, I only have so much money, right? Like that's a finite resource for most of us here. And therefore, if two come out at the exact same time, that can be a big upfront expense. And so petering them out in between, I think, helps a little bit. But either way, Eclipse is not a game I have played, but is a game that I wanted before I even, when I was first getting into board games, because I'm pretty new to all this. Eclipse looked really cool because you got all the ships and it's essentially like Stellaris or I played Galactic Civilization 2 a crazy amount of time back in the day. So it's like this 4X space kind of exploration and you're researching, tech trees. It's civilization in space. And I love that style of game in video games, and I would love to do that in a board game. And it looks really solid. The second edition is going to come with new miniatures and I hope maybe some upgraded components. There's a lot of wooden pieces in the first one. We'll see how the second one is. Maybe that's a Kickstarter upgrade. I don't know. Either way, picking your race and researching different tech trees and exploring and fighting and all that sounds really cool. So I'll definitely be on the lookout for that. For me, especially if it has a solo mode, I think that would probably work pretty well for solo. I don't know if the first one does or not. Let me know if you know whether or not Eclipse supports solo, because that would be something I might actually be interested in. And finally, game number 4 is Waste Knights 2nd Edition. Now, I've known about this game for a while. The publisher actually contacted me with kind of like a press info on it, and I was excited even then. But I haven't been talking about it because they haven't been making any announcements on it, and I wanted to kind of wait until maybe they're a bit more ready. And I think this is kind of a perfect kind of end to this series for 2018. And unless we find out some more later on, I'll always, try and keep you guys up to date on what I'm interested in, what you'll probably end up seeing on this channel. But Waste Knights 2nd Edition, my understanding is it's going to be a pretty different game than the first. So if you've played the first and maybe you found it a little cumbersome, or maybe you really enjoyed it, it's the same kind of world. It's essentially like this Mad Max post-apocalyptic Fallout universe in Australia, which, you know, sounds cool anyway, especially if we get like mutant kangaroos. I don't know if there's mutant kangaroos. There needs to be mutant kangaroos. Either way, or maybe like vicious koalas. I don't know. Something crazy. The point being here is they've redone a lot, but what excites me, first of all, it looks like they have some great miniatures, which is always appreciated. I am a fan of miniatures, but it doesn't have to be. That's okay too. But either way, that sweetens the deal a little bit. But I want this to be a better Fallout game than Fallout. Kind of like how I'm hoping Chronicle X is a better XCOM game than XCOM the board game. I want this to beat Fallout the board game, because Fallout the board game died in this household. Like the rules are just broken there, especially the winning conditions, and even the questing system is fundamentally kind of flawed, especially with multiple people, and it's just weird. Waste Night 2nd Edition is also open world, but from what I can see, from what they've posted on Board Game Geek, which I'll keep a link down below in the description to their kind of spiel on an example of their open world system. But one of the cool things is you can split the party up. Like, you can decide for yourself and not just everybody else. So maybe, you know, you're all like, you know, protecting a delivery or something like that. And then you find out that the delivery is like sending guns to a gang or whatever. And maybe, you know, 2 of you decide to, well, we're going to still deliver this. And one of you said, no, that's dumb. And so now suddenly it's like PvP. And so suddenly one of you is like trying to help the other guys and will be defending against the 2 of you who are trying to actually attack that, or just stuff like that seems really cool. There's a lot of talking to NPCs. There's a lot of, you know, doing like speech checks and stuff like that, and it sounds like the perfect Fallout fix for me, because my wife and I are huge Fallout fans, and we really like the IP and the video games, and even the old school ones. I've played the original Fallout and got lost a lot and didn't know what I was doing. But either way, like that world, that kind of gameplay system really excites us. So hopefully that ends up being great. As we get more information, I might kind of do a preview leading up to the Kickstarter. I do that sometimes if there's not a lot of info beforehand, but I can kind of compile it. So hopefully I can get that. Either way, guys, that's the next 4 games that I'm looking forward to in 2018. We got one in October with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We got 2 July 10th games and 1 when it's ready game. So we will see how that ends up. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. As always, I appreciate it. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know if there's any other games that you're interested in. I would love to hear about them, and maybe I'll make a part 3. Who knows? It depends. But you can let me know, and I will take a look at those for sure, and let you know my thoughts on those. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching, as always, and I will talk to you soon.